to Atlantic Ocean, upon me hills to Boakai, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia, for Liberia, Liberia, for Liberia, yeah. From Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday, it's focused on Liberia. Talk about home affairs, in Diaspora, current affairs, reliable information. Education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of Tough Talking Thursday on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Tough Talking Thursday, we're going to look at President Boakai's new appointments, especially in the foreign service. The House Speaker Impasse continues. Let's see, and it's all happening very, very fast. Things are changing almost on a daily basis. Also, the United States has a new president, and that's the comeback of President-elect Donald J. Trump. So the topic is the return of Donald J. Trump and the US-Liberia relations. What does that mean for US-Liberia relations with President Trump in power? Let me welcome Mr. William Gibson. William, welcome to Tough Talking Thursday.
Thanks, Mr. Jock. Glad to be here. Good evening, good morning to everybody. Looking forward to having a great discussion.
Yeah, thank you. Let me also welcome a senior panelist here on Tough Talking Thursday. That's Dr. Abdullah Dukle, who has the privilege of working with 3 presidents. Welcome, Dr. Duke.
Thank you, Dennis. Maybe you should just say Dukle the teacher.
He's the teacher, he's the journalist, he's the writer, and he just wrote another piece. We'll talk about that later. His random thoughts about what happened in the House. Let me welcome all our viewers from across the globe. When it's Thursday, it's time to talk tough. We have some colleagues are also on the way. They will be joining very shortly. Our governance consultant is having some trouble here. We'll try to fill him in later on admin. So yeah, we want to welcome, if you have not already done so, please share the show, invite someone, and let's get started. Dr. Douglas, we're going to be starting with the president's new appointments.
Yeah.
President Boakai made some appointments, and I know we've been talking about the DEA for a long time. We have some appointments there, but I want us to talk about this one. Let me read that. President Boakai has nominated additional members of government affecting the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, including Foreign Mission, the United States of America, France, and so on. Those nominated are Al-Hassan Conte, Ambassador Designate United States of America; Genevieve Kennedy, Ambassador Designate United Kingdom; Tico Yole, Ambassador Designate France; Edward Appleton, remember the Appleton effect?
Yeah.
Edward Appleton, Ambassador Designate Japan; Brahima Kaba, Ambassador Designate Kuwait; Mohammed Kane, ambassador designate Qatar. Ali Silla, ambassador designate Senegal. Joseph Johnson, ambassador designate Morocco, Mosul for Ghana, and Louis Brown, ambassador designate Liberia permanent mission in New York. Dr. Douglas, before we even get into that, how do we pick? Oh, Dr. Douglas is having some challenges here.
My telephone, it just dropped. My support. Yeah, go ahead. I can hear you.
Yeah, how do we pick which country we have this relationship with and which we don't, right? Because we have ambassador in some countries and ambassador not in other countries. How does that happen? How do we come up with that to have ambassadors somewhere and not other places?
Well, look, we have ambassador probably in the U.S., but do we need one in Mexico? I think it depends on the historical relationship. For example, Britain is based on the fact that the kingdom was the first one to recognize Liberia as independent republic. The U.S., of course, and then you have our neighbors. But there are some that you don't really see the necessity, except where sometimes the friendship between two presidents. Like Cameroon, we have nothing to do with Cameroon. But Cameroon had one of the biggest embassies in Liberia. I mean, I don't know if you remember, they had this embassy in Cinco, and it was huge. And we had an embassy in in Yaoundé till the man died, Dr. Kape. And then somebody else is there now, but we have no work with, we have nothing to do with Cameroon. It was just a friendship between Talbot and the Cameroonian president and all of those. So these things happen. It depends on economic relationship like China, neighborhood, politics, and sometimes just friendship. Because you remember now, ambassadors were created by the king's emperor to serve as special envoy to another king. That was it. You're friendly with somebody, you send an emissary. That becomes, sometimes they stay, sometimes they go back and forth. But now we have created an institution called embassies, and they serve many missions, military in many places, commerce, trade representatives, and also media, culture, and that's what I did at the embassy: culture and information. So you have all three in every embassy at least, and they represent those ministries and then do their work. But there's no real rationale for having an ambassador and not having one.
Thank you. Let me welcome Mr. Ahmed Salif. That's the executive director of GJI. And we're going to talk a little bit about that before the end of the show. Please remind me, let's talk a little bit about that and see where you are now with this institution. I promise we're going to have a separate show to really delve into this because this is new for us. But Mr. Salifia, tell me, what do you think is driving President Boakai appointing these people in the foreign area, right? What is the foreign policy backing? What is pushing this? Do we need them and why?
Well, establishing diplomatic relations with other countries is primarily about the strategic national interest of your country. Every foreign policy is anchored on domestic policy, on national strategic interest. It's about advancing Liberia's interest in those countries. It could be trade interest, it could be economics, it could be security, it could be just friendly relations. Maybe there are a lot of Liberians in that country. Maybe there are in interest around education, around health exchanges in different areas of interest. So you don't just send ambassadors to another country just to have an embassy there. It's very expensive to maintain a mission, a diplomatic mission in another country. And it has implications, there are consequences having, diplomats accredited to another country's capital. So it's a good question. Where's our country's foreign policy right now? That's, something that we're looking at to see if there's a new direction in which Liberia is leaning in terms of geopolitics, in terms of foreign policy interest, because in the past we've really been backstopping other people. Wherever the U.S. goes, we go. Wherever we saw United States are traditional and most reliable ally. Wherever they go, wherever they vote in the international global stage, we follow them. But things have changed. Your politics has changed. You have climate diplomacy now. You have the rise of China. You're looking at the Sino-Liberia relations or trade relations between implications of how United States and China and other countries in Asia, in Eurasia, and in Europe interact, and how that impact the global south, so-called global south. So you look at all of that and say, where are we today domestically? We're about reconstructing our country. We had civil conflict, years of destruction. We had Ebola shock. We had economic shock. And then COVID-19, where are we? Our institutions are dilapidated. Maybe we need to send students abroad to study. Maybe we need to bring doctors, to train our doctors, to bring our hospitals up to par, our public institutions. If these are the strategic interests in terms of development, economic, social, cultural development, then we seek those kinds of relationships and therefore send our diplomats to represent our interests.
And so, anyway, we'll come back to that, because I want to see where now is our interest. If you have any inkling as to where Liberia is going with the people, the countries we are sending ambassadors to, and the people that are representing us. Mm-hmm. But think about that. Let me go to William. Let William comment on. William, we got people stand out in the new appointments, and let's start with the foreign. Dr. Conte, who is currently the interim president of the University of Liberia. We haven't gotten the president proper yet. He's been designated as ambassador. We got another name came up, Louis Brown, Tiklo Yoli from Nimba. I think he was representative or superintendent, something he was doing in Nimba. I don't recall now. Of those, the people on the list, what stand out to you, Mr. Gibson, as to what the president is doing here?
I mean, the main thing that stands out to me is the recycling of career politicians. These individuals have tainted characters, as most politicians you will find in Liberia have tainted characters, within their government.
Like who?
I mean, for example, the first gentleman that you named that's now ambassador designated for the USA, having had what's his name? Conte.
Conte.
Having, such a high post taken up by someone who was an ambassador, I believe, in Nigeria when the scandal broke out with the rape scandal, and nothing was done. No investigation was launched. When President Boakai came in, a lot of people were against him even being reappointed as officer in charge at UL. So it's sending a clear message that certain things are not prioritized when it comes to studying truly what these characters bring to the table. You go on to Louis Brown. Louis Brown has been in government for quite some time, around government, different regimes. Again, what new is he bringing to the conversation of governance and what it means to be on the world stage if you have a lot of skeletons in your closet as well? Then you go on to talk about just those two in particular. Career politicians who have been recycled and put in spaces where, quite frankly, if we're looking to strengthen partnerships and bring new ideas to the table and change how we have relationships with these nations, we need people who are going to move the needle a bit differently and not do things of the past. So this list is not really screaming anything that's not considered business as usual. It's still the same status quo. And quite frankly, I'm a little disappointed if you have individuals who have been, involved in different scandals here and there. Why would you bring them back into your government? You could use them for a different post, or just not use them at all, pretty much.
Dr. Dukle,
Yeah.
What stands out? You like the list?
Well, the list is, as Mr. Gibson says, you got some recycled people. These are not career diplomats, as you say. I mean, most of them are not. I know Dr. Conte, he served in Nigeria, but before that, he was, like me, he was mostly a teacher. I'd never served. He didn't go through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Dr. Kaba has been ambassador before, Minister of Commerce and the Taylor, and also ended where he was ambassador to Kuwait or somewhere. Saudi Arabia. He was in Saudi Arabia. But he also is not a career diplomat. He didn't go through the ranks at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So it's, and Louis Brown, of course, that we all know. And none of, I think these sort of political appointments in high level diplomatic posts. And the idea is probably that if people can perform as political appointees, that's what we see in the US. You see some embassies are occupied by career diplomats who come from the the State Department directly. They go through ranks and then get to the ambassador level and they've been sent to places. And then you have political appointees who are people who most of the time are donors, big donors who give money, and then you go to London, Paris, or China, one of those big capitals. So I think in Liberia it's the same thing. Probably he's looking at people he thinks are capable of making a difference in a diplomatic circle. And these posts are very high level posts. Very visible posts. You're talking about UN, or you're talking about Paris, you're talking about Washington, D.C., and I'm waiting to see, but I'm more interested. I want to see what happened in sub-region really, like Guinea, Ivory Coast, and Nigeria. Those are the three that I'm really interested in, and Ghana, of course.
We got Musu Ruli to Ghana.
Okay, I don't know.
Mr. Salif has been around the Foreign Service Institute, so he would know. Mr. Salif, and then we have Edward Appleton, the guy who magically appeared from nowhere. Now he's to Japan.
Appleton also. Yeah, of course, he's not a diplomat. He's not a career diplomat. He's political appointee. Like the guy he's going to replace, Mr. Blamo Nelson.
Yeah.
So what's the question? Is the question about the individuals or the question about the post?
Individuals, yeah.
Listen, large countries that have very consequential foreign policies and foreign policy questions make sure that their diplomats, most of them have gone through the ranks. They've been they go to the Foreign Service Institute and training, do language training, do national security training, do economics training, do geopolitical training, those kinds of things, right? And then you look for specialists who speaks what language, who understands Arabic, who understands Japanese, Chinese, who understands the United Nations, the workings of the UN, who has expertise in negotiations, in conflict resolution, depending on your foreign policy objective. Again, foreign policies are anchored on domestic policies, national strategic interest. And so you are sending people very strategically to strategic missions. Nothing happens in a vacuum, right? But the ambassadors themselves don't necessarily have to be career diplomats, as Dr. Tukle pointed out. There are others who go for different reasons, political appointees. What you need to have is a very structured, competent foreign service. By that, I mean, you have people who are trained, like the first secretary. You have somebody who's in charge of political and economic affairs. If our interest is in trade and international development and looking for those kinds of opportunities, then you have someone in that area. If our interest is in educational exchange, you have someone in that area. If we have companies from China, private investments coming to Liberia, then you have a specialist that really understands Chinese business and things like that who can interpret what they're observing in their country, who can advance our country's interests in that country, who can send cables back home to inform the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, advise the minister, therefore advise the president. These are the kinds of things you're looking for. To me, I don't necessarily just look at the individual's names, particularly if I don't know the person, right? I like to believe that our president's wisdom and the people around, and I like to trust the system sometimes, although the systems and the process they fail us, they often fail us. But the point is, you're looking for individuals with certain backgrounds, even if they're not career diploma, but people beneath them who have the training, who understand the context, who can help move the mission forward.
Yeah, but let's look at the names. When we are talking tough here, William mentioned about Hassan Conte when he was in Nigeria. That whole rape scandal in Liberia, we say no head, no tail, right? He's at a university. The university still hasn't had a president, interim president. The teachers are saying, the lecturers are saying they won't teach, they won't go back to class. There's no, they can do this on an acting president. We have Louis Brown, remember with Tire Suffering Raleigh. He was there before. Tiklo Yole, assistant superintendent from NIMBA.
Right.
These and then the Kennedy, Musu to Ghana. Can these people move the needle? Do you know them
Well, my understanding is, I met Mr. Louis Brown several times, but I do not know him, like that.
But he was there before. What did he produce that tell you now?
Well, my understanding is he was very effective at the UN. And so there were several recommendations that he could help the president advance his causes and move, Liberia to that non-voting member on the Security Council and other things, because it's already familiar. I don't know, but you could say there are others who could do the job as well or better, who are new, who are fresher, who understand. Again, it just depends on what decisions went into that. As far as Dr. Conte, yes, he was not known to be a diploma, career diploma per se. Dr. Conte is an academic. He was teaching, he was writing, he was publishing. He became president of the university, very effective at that. I recall people protested. Some of them were very tribalistic kind of things, but nothing serious really. On the substance of it, he was successful at the University of Liberia, and because of that controversy, I think President Sirleaf just decided to send him to Nigeria, that perhaps it could be as effective in the diplomatic circle. Now, the rape allegations, we heard that. I don't know, these things, we hear them sometimes. To me, is a manifestation of the larger problem that we have at home. Sometimes, even in Liberia, a scandal like that breaks out. People talk about it 2 days and move on to the next scandal, and nothing really happens. So I don't know. It was an allegation, and I do not know anything about it. But that doesn't speak to me to the competence and the president's competence. I don't know if Dr. Conte himself was directly accused of anything. And so I think he could make a real good ambassador representing Liberia in Washington, based on his knowledge in academia, his knowledge already in the foreign service. The other people, I don't know them. Not sure do I have to know them. But the point is, as I was saying earlier, if you have a strong mission, you have trained people who are under the ambassador who can help move the mission, sometimes it doesn't really matter.
And Carl, let me welcome a presenter on the History Channel, Carl. Carl, this appointment in the Foreign Service, do you see any policy that is the foreign policy that they're going to be, I think before the show we were talking about U.S. foreign policy, you said, well, the UN policy is there, whoever is there, nothing is going to change. What's about Liberia? Do we have our foreign policy and whoever is there shouldn't matter?
I mean, we have had historically a foreign policy of non-alliance, and everyone should be aware of that, which is very wise, which is why we were able to maintain our sovereignty for as long as we did. We also need to evolve and further develop our foreign policy in accordance with the times and the current situation that we're in. I don't think a lot of work has been done really to develop our foreign policy the way it should be. Looking at our relationships in our region and on the continent, we have really lost our position as a leader, mainly because of our failure to network and also to spend the best of the best that we have to represent our interests and to push our agenda. This is also the case at ECOWAS, at African Union. It's the case at Mono River Union. It is the case everywhere. Many of the times, the representative for Liberia is the weakest on the panel. And because we're using a lot of patronage, pity, we give people jobs because we feel sorry for them because, it's what the country can do for them and not what they're going to deliver. And, I suffer, I ain't get a job. I suffer for you to be president. Come help me, oh, mom, please send me my name to Boakai because, I've been sitting down since Cummings lost the election. I tired of suffering, and then they go send you somewhere, and the thing is, we really, it's tough talking Thursday, so I'm going to
Yeah,
talk.
I
Right?
mean,
I'm not
I
going to
like
be. I'm
it.
not going to be nice. It's not a nice show. So y'all don't take this stuff personal, but it is what it is. I'm speaking my mind, and we have to come to a place where we realize that these positions are the opportunity for Liberia to advance its cause, to advance its position in the world, to advance its economic relationships, its social, its political relationships, its trade relationships. This is not just some place to send somebody to sit because you're sorry for them. And I don't agree with people who say because Louis Brown was there before, he performed well. This man did not, in my opinion, do the best job that we've seen. And there are others that can do better. Let me give you an example. Our standing in regional politics, especially since President Sirleaf has left, has fallen back. So it wasn't really Louis Brown that was giving Liberia prominence. It was President Sirleaf. Her persona was pushing the country forward. Not our foreign policy positions. It was her. She was the darling girl of the continent of Africa, of the world. We have to look at new talent, breath of fresh air. We need to look at current global politics. We're no longer in a Cold War situation. Louis Brown's a relic of the past. Does he even understand the present enough to move the country forward? We need innovation. And I'm not seeing that in his speech. I've listened to him many times on panel discussions. I don't see the depth of understanding that's necessary to advance the country on a global scale coming out of Mr. Brown. And this is with all due respect. And, I've listened to him speak. I'm not impressed. A lot of fast talking, a lot of jargon, a lot of trying to dodge things and confuse things. And if you are actually informed and you listen to people like that, it's offensive and you can see right through it. But Liberians, we have fostered a culture where we like people that are boisterous and they talk plenty and they're able to convince people that they know more than they do and that they're grander than they are. And they have more abilities than they do. Just by talking. And it's unfortunate.
Thank you.
No,
Dr.
can I
Dugler,
add
before you come
something?
in, Dr. Dugler, I'm coming to you. You
Okay.
can add. We keep hearing about bribes or money changing hands, and I'm going to call names. I keep hearing about the party chairman, the party secretary. People are involved and asking for money for these jobs. I don't know if this is true for the list that we've just gone through, but there's still people are complaining that people are asking for money. Dr. Douglas, go ahead.
Now I was going to add to what Cole said about the knowing what the people, what's the capacity of that person you're sending to a job. That's where maybe we link with what Ahmed said earlier, that you need a staff. Sometimes you send a political appointee to just see a face, like, Dr. Kaba going to Kuwait. He's an elder man, a profound Muslim, a Sunni, he will be at the mosque every day. But you need people to work in the embassy. You need trade, security, media, culture attaché, all of those people. But those people have to be top notch. If you don't have them, and you just have a political appointee at the embassy, you're sending them to go sleep and eat and go to cocktail parties. And that's a problem with most of our embassies. I remember Akarulele was talking about development diplomacy, where she was asking people, I don't care what you do, you have to bring a trade mission to Liberia. I don't care what you do, bring somebody to us and say, this is Liberia. If you don't do that, you're not doing your job. Then you can look at all these 9 or 10 people who has ever brought a trade mission to Liberia from this, their list. They're all political appointees, so they recycle. When you talk about the money issue, yes, I heard about it too, that people ask money to get the name forwarded to the president or to whatever ministry is responsible for whatever they want to do. That happens. It's part of Liberia. I don't know how he's going to stop it, because somebody say, oh no, they're my sister, but they don't even know them. Sometimes they say, oh, they're my cousin, yeah, but then you find out the cousin went through somebody to talk to them to pay money. So that, in fact, when I was there, people were talking about people finding $10,000, $15,000 to get $300. You pay $15,000 to get a job that paid $300 a month. Does that make sense to anyone? But people were doing it. But you say, who do you give the money to? They say, they asked me this, and then I brought that, and then I brought this, and then I brought a chicken, and I brought a goat, and then after that I brought a cow, and now they own my house now. But it happens. But who come and say, oh, somebody took my money, and then I never got a job. Because they'll ask you, why did you give money to get a job? But that's our culture.
Mr. Gibson, based on what we've discussed so far, so what is President Boakai? I know you are not in President Boakai's head, but what is he thinking? I mean, Liberia, the foreign service had people in the past that we know, names that are regular. It's good to have new people, but when almost all of them are political, what does that say about the president?
I mean, from everything that he's done so far, I think he's contradictory of everything that he's always put out since ascending to power at the helm of power. He's always been just one contradiction after another. You just put out something about following certain standards and what needs to be practiced. You would think this list would reflect what he stated about putting standards in place and making sure people are held to a higher regard and they're performing. If this is what he wanted to do differently, is not sending that message to me. I think he's contradicting himself every step of the way. If I were him as a president and I see names come across my desk that quite frankly have no experience, no background in anything dealing with the foreign affairs of a nation, if it was only strictly based off of political favors, why would I put you on the world stage to represent Liberia for the next 5 years? So it's contradictory. It's not sending a message to anyone that this is a serious administration that is focused on reshaping and revitalizing what our overall foreign policy is or what Liberia now represents under this administration.
Mr. Salif, another appointment is the Office of the War and Economic Crimes Court. It's supposed to be war crimes. Okay. Jala A. Babu. You like that?
Yes, Dr. Babu is a very learned man. They were looking for somebody who was a Liberian lawyer who was a member of the
And before you continue, that was supposed to be the committee, right? There was a committee set up. I don't know if that committee did its work because
the committee. This appointment came out of 3 recommendations that the committee made to the president, submitted 3 names according to public information and media reports. Submitted to the president, and the president picked Dr. Jala A. Babu, dean of the law school, current dean of the law school. What I know about Jala Babu, I worked with him briefly during the 2018 transition time, who really helped. We were in a committee, subcommittee on governance to help them with the transition, and that committee wrote the final report for the presidential transition. And he basically was the one supervising that work, really helped us to finalize that report. Excellent writer, excellent thinker, I don't know it's a ministry managerial style or a leadership style otherwise, other than that short experience, and I've been in touch with him off and on since. But my sort of a what to say, I forgot the analogy here, but my distant sort of observation of him is it's somebody who meets the requirement that they were asking. Again, as I said, they were looking for somebody who understood Liberian law, constitutional law. I understand he's a constitutional law expert, somebody who was a member of the Supreme Court bar, he is. Someone who was a member of the Liberian National Bar Association, he is. A dean of the law school at that. And it's my understanding he drafted the thing. There's a draft act for the charter of the court, the structure of the court, high or local, and things like that. Even he made a contribution to the executive order 131 that the president ended up signing, that discuss what a role of the executive director will be, what a structure will be. So it looks like he's done some research in that area. And looked at what other countries have done. So it remains to be seen how effective he will be. I hope he will be, and how he understands the dynamics of the importance of this office, different constituents groups and different stakeholders, and what it entails. Essentially, this office, this is somebody who should organize, do the research, make recommendation for why and how the court will look like, where it should be, all of that.
And if you are involved in drafting it, don't you think that would be problematic?
No, I think it's the act. And one of them, I may have misspoken about the executive order aspect, but he did draft something that went before the legislature that was extensive about the structure of War and Economic Crimes Court for Liberia. To me, that illustrates a initiative and knowledge and expertise, that this is somebody who can do the research. Maybe he has specific expertise or not in international law in that respect, I do not know. But these things, if you're trained, you can easily make yourself a mini expert before you become the real expert quickly.
Thank you. And Carl, we because it looked like we are at a place where meeting minimum standard is not enough. There's a history of this position. You have somebody there who there was a lot of noise. In fact, that really kind of lowered the morale of this office, the way people were so excited about War Crimes Court. With this change that President Boakai, say, okay, let's hit the reset, let's get somebody else. Does that bring back the confidence and what really we were hoping for this office? And they eventually having War and Economic Crimes Court in Liberia?
I think you're really asking the wrong person that question. I don't have a lot of confidence in the War and Economics Crime Court Exploration Committee is really what it is. It's not an actual court. You read the paperwork. It's what they're doing is they're looking for a way to be able, their mandate is to try to figure out a way to do a War and Economics Crime Court. It's not the actual court. So I don't really have an opinion either way. I don't know these people or their background, and I cannot honestly give an informed and sincere, analysis of something I don't really think about. I haven't given it any thought, and that's the truth.
That is very true. Dr. Dukley.
Yeah, I know I'll be biased because I know him. And I think he's probably the best person to do this. He's very humble and very smart. So I'm fully confident that, if they open the doors for him, he will do a good job. That's all I can say.
Do you have confidence in this economic or War and Economic Crimes Court coming to Liberia anytime soon under this arrangement?
That's a good question, but honestly, I'm not confident in it happening within these 5 years. I think it'll be a lot of work that will hopefully be done based off of the character that he's believed to have and that's folks on the platform have spoken about. So hopefully, I am hopeful and optimistic that it'll yield a lot of great results for the War and Economic Crimes Court. And from what it seems, overall, the public is a bit more satisfied with this individual being selected to head such an important task force. So hopefully, it will yield some results for the country to move us forward and away from this dark history.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Tough Talking Thursday, and we are discussing President Boakai's new appointments, the Speaker ongoing impasse, and then the return of President Donald J. Trump. Let's talk about the what's going on in the House. Briefly, I know we have discussed this at length, but quickly, things continue to change, right? Of late, what has come up, the conference from the Supreme Court, what they said they're going to do, and we went on. Now we are at a point that the CDC, first of all, Thomas Fowler went and joined the so-called majority bloc, and now we have heard, it's been reported yesterday, that the National Executive Committee of the Opposition Congress for Democratic Change has temporarily suspended a number of its lawmakers for their involvement in the Unity Party's activities, that's what it says, citing the violation of the party's constitution. Those suspended include Deputy Speaker Thomas Fowler, Lofa County, Alexander Paul, River G, Isaac Tropley, Wu, River G, Johnson S. William, River G, Julie Weir of Lofa County, and the list go on and on and on. Mr. Salim, does this all add to the confusion that is already at the House of Representatives when it comes to what really is going on and where is this going?
Yeah, it's all politics, right? I mean, party politics conflicted with, of course, the national legislative politics. It's all power play. These individuals are largely all seeking self-interest. They're not necessarily they're seeking the interest of the Liberian people. They say they are, but they're not. It's all juggling for positioning and influence in preparation for 2029. This is what this is about. Thomas Fowler, you recall, he was a representative in Montserrat County before he moved to Lofa County. And it seems as though he does not need CDC animal, really, because he brought them vote from 7% to 37%. They almost swept Lofa County in the last electoral cycle. Brought vote, a significant amount of votes in that county to George Weir at that time. So, yes, they can suspend him because membership in such a serious, such a political party, this is a major opposition party. You can debate that, but, they'll make the noise. It's a serious thing because CCC can pick and delist you, can say you're not on our list, you're not running for this district and that district. But it looks as Fowler is out of that grip now, and so he has some flexibility to maneuver and do things with some degree of freedom. That's what's happening in that specific respect. There's another representative from Margibi County who came and is asking for apology that CDC should recall and publicly clarified that he's not a member of the CDC, he's never registered ever, he's not a partisan of the party, and how could they suspend him? In fact, he's a partisan of a different party. So you can see that there are all kinds of things happening, a lot of confusion. But bottom line is, in all this, they're not serving Liberia. They're not doing their job. Both sides. They will show up. Speaker Kofa's side will show up. They don't have the quorum. They can't conduct business, and they're not successfully as a leader on Kofa's side, changing any dynamic, really changing people's minds to join him, or because you can even go to court and force people to come to the main chamber and sit under your gavel. But if they're recalcitrant, they're rebellious, they don't want your leadership, that's a serious political problem. We've been saying on this show and other shows on FOL here since the whole saga started. I think it's a political question and need to resolve it as a political matter as quickly as they can, because what it's doing is impeding the president's work, is impeding Liberian people's work, and that's just what it is. Yes, the party piece complicates things, but the party has to be a serious institution, engaging in institutionalism to really have an impact.
Cole, is this a way for the CDC to distance itself from the removal of Speaker Kofa?
I think so. I mean, I'm not a soothsayer, but if in fact George Weah and his supporters are secretly or in a sneaky way trying to get rid of Kofa, this would be a great cover up. The whole thing is just sickening. I honestly don't care who's behind it. I don't really care who the speaker is. I don't care about any of this stuff. Liberian people are struggling. Everything is upside down. We have disproportional representation. The entire House of Representatives, any lawyer, to be honest, exists illegitimately because you have extreme disproportional representation. We're not even following the Constitution. And if you don't follow the Constitution, you're not a legitimate body in the first place. You have people who don't actually have residency established somewhere, running there, bribing the locals to take office. We have far bigger problems with that legislature than their petty infighting. The citizens ought to force a shutdown, a redistricting where it's constitutional, and then, do something serious. I don't see how talking about this petty gangster brawl between a bunch of people who are there to loot and not actually work and do anything correct is even benefiting Liberian people. We've been harping on this thing for almost, a month? For God's sakes, just like President Boakai said about Weah when Weah was in office, his presence or his absence makes no difference. That is how I feel about the lawmakers. They are not doing anything. They're not protecting people's rights. They're not empowering people with progressive economic laws. They're not making any changes that are benefiting our people. Everything goes in Liberia. Instead of us talking about that, we won't worry about whether or not the person who had people bribe him, who paid bribes to elect him, they're not, the bribe now, they're not reimbursing the bribe. They want to remove him. It's really, Liberians, we have to really think about the things we focus our energy on. And if we're going to actually correct our country, that is the place it's going to start. Let's first look at the Constitution. What does it say? Does it say that Fanati Kofa, who represents a fraction of the people that Yeka Kaloba represents, is that constitutional? It is not. They did a census. They only focused on election. They didn't focus on the fact that, hey, we need to redraw these district boundaries. We might need to even combine some counties so we can be in line with what the Constitution intended. They're not thinking about things that will advance our country in any kind of way. It's all about petty, silly differences. And this is not about issues of audit. This is not about any of that. It is about power. It's about greed. It's about looting. It's about sucking the life out of a country that's already on its last leg, for God's sakes. And all of us talking heads, every time you turn on the YouTube or any social media, we're all talking about things that are petty in comparison to what's actually wrong in Liberia. Very petty in comparison to what's wrong.
And Claude, I'll start with the constituents, right? So what do you do? Because if they are backed by people and the people who elected them say, yes, we enjoy what they do, and so then they get our blessing, what can you do about that?
What do you mean?
Their constituents, they're okay with it. They are not saying anything. They are not removing them. They are not saying, well, we're going to kick you out because you are not representing us.
Do the constituents know what most of us know what representatives are supposed to do? We have pandered to the lowest denominator in the society. Instead of educating our people, we've become more tribal. We think counties are about tribes. We think everything is about tribe in the country. I mean, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, there's no mention of tribe in our Constitution. These guys took an oath to the Constitution. When they're ready to do alliances, they talk about tribe. Oh, all the crew people are together behind Councillor Kofa. What is that? I was so disappointed in Funati because he knows better. He knows better. They do terrible things and they justify it because they use the word political. And somehow when you use the word political, it erases any evil act. Oh, but I'm doing it, that politics. And our children are watching. And our children are learning. And instead of us teaching our children ethics, to uphold standards that were laid down for this country as far as what a citizen is, we're not teaching them that. We're teaching our children to be tribal. We're teaching our children to be greedy. We're teaching them to lie. We're teaching them they can do anything if they're going to benefit from it financially. It's justifiable. That is the lesson that these people that we've put into power, they are misleading the society. We're not talking about that. We've left that alone and we're following them down this rabbit hole of petty conversation.
Thank you. Mr. Gibson. What's your take on what is going on and the different, twists and turns as the impasse in the House continue? Or do you agree with Cole that this is petty and we should focus on more important things?
Yeah, I mean, with this situation right now, I think until it's resolved is something that cannot be ignored. Everyone wakes up to just a different news story every day about this situation. I thought it would have been fixed by now, but of course, people's interests are involved in the people that should be valued in all of this and considered are the Liberian people, and the Liberian people are not being considered. I think the next step at this point is the Liberian people have to take it upon themselves to get close to the Capitol building and start protesting. Because until they see these people infringe upon their own ability to practice their rights within that space of governance at the Capitol building, they won't take anything seriously. I think if you start taking to the streets and sitting within that building and doing a protest of some sorts, hopefully that would yield some results to have either the speaker resign from his post or to have them figure out what the solution is, because the court tried to come in and step in and tell them they have to go ahead and figure this out on their own, but nothing has been done. So I'm hoping that, it's not something that can be ignored, but it needs to be fixed right away because it's holding everything at a standstill.
What is it holding exactly?
I mean, from my understanding, the overall budget that's supposed to be submitted, they don't have quorum to even discuss the budgets, certain committee meetings that need to occur, a bunch of different things regarding the overall flow of the checks and balances of governance. I think it's at a standstill right now.
Right. Dr. Dewey.
Yeah. I say coach don't like the word political, but it is a political issue. I don't think, every day somebody wake up.
I'm sorry, Duke. I didn't say I didn't like the word politics. So.
No, that you don't like in the context. People
I said they use it, they hide their evil acts behind the word politics and they think it justifies it.
Yeah, exactly.
I studied politics in school. I have a degree in political science. So I don't think politics is a bad word. I was specifically saying how to use it.
What I meant is that you don't like political in that sense. The way to cover up bad acts, and then you say it's political. I think from the beginning, I said no one in CDC will go after a CDC speaker without rare endorsement of knowledge of it. And that's where the problem is. If we are sat down today with those guys, you're in the CDC, this is our speaker, they will change. If we say, no, we don't want you to move away, he will go. I think that's simple. And we are not addressing it. He's saying, everybody's talking. Suspending Fala, as Ahmed said, Fala doesn't need CDC. CDC needs Fala more than he needs them. when they were not in power, people like Fala financed everything. They paid everything. They took care of the party. They took care of all the deals of George Weah. So you can't dismiss him, and he doesn't need them. And Fonati has risen so fast in CDC that he was born to create problems. Remember now, he was at Liberty all his life till 6 years ago. He joined CDC, and overnight found himself to be the speaker, meaning the second or the highest elected person in the CDC. You're talking about 2029. I mean, it's all political issue. It's a gang fight, gang warfare. It's about money, about looting, but it's going to paralyze the country if the issue is not resolved. And I think the person who can resolve it is George Weah, because I think he knows about it, he's part of it, and these suspensions are just to cover up.
How about President Boakai? Can he use the bullet puppet to get them to do the
No,
people's work?
Boakai cannot intervene because he play in Boakai hands anyway. They play in Boakai hands as a president. Do you see now for 3 weeks, nobody talked about anything in the executive? The LDA, the LRA, the Commerce Ministry, the LTA, nobody talks about nothing. So Boakai doing his job quietly. So let the House keep fighting until he needs them. Maybe then he can call a meeting and say, as a fatherly figure, but not as a president. Because as a president, he cannot intervene. But whatever happens is going to benefit him. So what should he intervene?
Nobody's checking on him, right?
No, nobody talk about him now. No newspaper about him. No headline about Boakai do this, Boakai ministry do that. Let him fight so he can keep doing his job.
Mr. Salif, you conclude on this. Where is this going to end?
Dr. Ducre sounded like dysfunctionality and functionality and dysfunctionality, right? So the
exactly, yeah. Organized chaos.
To me, I mean, I don't know how it will end. They're all, sworn to their positions. Because again, we've all believed at this point, it's about self-interest. What position, what committee can you be on, and how much personal gains can you acquire from that? It's really sadly, it's a huge problem, because that's the framework, that's sort of the symbol of the constitutionalism that we are talking about, even though they're not really fully representing the Constitution, following the law. But until that can be resolved, as ugly as it is, there's chaos. Nothing else can happen, really. I mean, you can't do legitimate business in the Senate without the lower house, and lower house is in chaos. And the president can advance his legislative agenda when the lower house is in chaos. So it's a serious problem. And speaker who doesn't have quorum will not resign because he has the legitimate authority, and the others are saying, look, okay, you won't resign, we're not submitting ourselves to your leadership. And it seems to be dragging on. I think civic action, citizen action, protests in their constituents, if it's really organized system, that's what would get people moving, people shifting their positions. So those who understand that, who will start mobilizing grassroots, civil society folks, media, citizens groups. I think those are some of the entry points that would crack something here. Otherwise, they're all sticking to their positions.
And this is what someone said. It said the standoff may continue indefinitely unless a strong voice intervenes to restore order. While the speaker currently lacks a quorum, he retains the gavel and remains in office until he voluntarily steps down. The only legitimate means to remove him is through an internal vote following established House procedures. However, this process is complicated by the fact that the dissenting members refuse to participate in sessions chaired by the speaker. It's akin to attempting to win a case by simply refusing to appear in court. Those were the words of Dr. Duke in his random thoughts, and I think I like what he said. That takes us to our final topic here, which is the return of Donald John Trump. And what does it mean for the US-Liberia relations? My first question is generally, this is a comeback. It has not happened in U.S. history for a very long time, very long time, for someone, a former president, to come back and win. It's the first time with felony charges and all that. Let me start with you, Mr. Gibson. What's your take on the return of President Trump? And the second part will be the relations, but just your take. Elections, Trump won. You got the message. What came to your mind?
Well, so my first time voting in any major election or any election period was in 2016 when I had the ability to vote. That was for Hillary Clinton. And when Trump was running, I took it as a joke. Never expected it to come to fruition. So to see it happen again left me not shocked but disappointed that America still is stuck within the past when it comes to the racism that's always existed within America, and also the sexism that's existed, and white males and white women, who, particularly the women who are under attack when it comes to the reproductive rights being on the line, and other important things that should be considered when it comes to our freedoms that we have within this country. They decided to vote against their own freedoms and elect again this individual who has been nothing but a vitriolic individual who has wanted to bring anarchy to a nation that has not grown in many regards, but to see them living up to what has always been is really alarming, and it's scary to see that they brought him back to power. I think the next 4 years will be very, very dark because of some of the things that's been outlined in Project 2025. We have to buckle up and just stay protected and be on guard when it comes to dealing with a presidency of Donald J. Trump again in America. When it comes to his relations with,
we'll come to that. We'll come to the US-Liberia relations. Let me go to Dr. Dua for his what he makes of it.
I'll go back to 2016 also. 2016, I was having a discussion with somebody. I said, Donald Trump could win these elections. The person said, you got to be crazy. I said, you want to bet? And we did. And I put money on Donald Trump, and I put more money on Hillary, but I put just a few dollars on Donald Trump so I could follow his campaign. And when he won, he did send me a letter. I have the letter from him, and I have one from Hillary. So I've predicted. In 2020, I said, Joe Biden is the only guy who could beat Donald Trump but now he's coming back. That's a mess. I mean, just thinking about a wounded lion that you let out of the cage, and somebody who's been can you imagine? We have spent the last 4 years we spoke and thought more about Donald Trump than Joe Biden, who's president. Every single day they says, so he got into people's minds somehow, his disorganization, his futility, his level of ignorance, his everything you can imagine, but it's still, for the American, he's the quantity they know. It's the known quantity. We know him. We don't know her. She make promises, but we don't know if she can make them or she can keep them. Therefore, we go to the devil we know. And also, there's this, past race issue that keep coming on. I mean, when Donald Trump said during the Black journalist meeting, I don't know if she's Indian or Black. The subliminal message in there was, she's not one of us. And that was the whole thing. The more that people think about it, they say, yeah, is she Black or she Indian? But anyway, she's not one of us. And they kept repeating those things throughout the campaign. And as Gibson said, that whole American culture of race and gender biases and all of that keep playing. Once they walk into the booth, they say, you know what? I know Trump. I know that woman. And that's what happened. Everybody was shocked. It's not about content. It's not about organization of campaign. It's not about substantive issues. It's just about, hey, the face of the old man that we know against the black Indian woman we don't know.
Thank you. Mr. Sharif, what's your reaction to the comeback of Donald J. Trump?
Yeah, it's like the two speakers before me. It's just you take a person by their words, their actions, right? I mean, I tend to not just judge people, but going by Mr. Trump's policies, what he had said about people, the vitriolic nature of the politics that he practices, things that others would not say, would not be politically correct. That's what he's saying. It's like he's a sounding board for many, many people in this country who like certain opinions expressed or object to certain people, certain policies, and Trump is the one who goes out there and does it and says, "Oh," and nothing happens to you. It's almost like this man is above the law. Right, where we are now, he has broken, set so many precedents. Fortunately, it will shake up on some of the institutional foundations of this country. I mean, I always say the guardrails is that American institutions are strong, but we've seen with Trump that even the constitutionality and the constitutionalism can be shaken. I mean, it's just a piece of paper, right? It's the principles that they follow. But if you start to break those principles and normalize things that no one could have thought of how many years ago as even serious issues of discussion, or any politician who would dabble in those things will survive. Trump has broken it all. He has done it all. All right. And he's the one they've chosen. So like Dr. Duke said, the subliminal message there is, that look, we prefer this white guy to this woman. I was the last night on TV, somebody on the Republican side said something very profound. I thought it was profound for me. He said, "Look, we've corrected ourselves. Even the Democrats will be happy that we've corrected ourselves. They'll go back, recalibrate, and fix their party." Just that we've fixed America, we've corrected ourselves. That means that Joe Biden brought mistakes on their hands by putting Kamala Harris on the ticket. Even for the Democrats, though the Democrats are not saying that, but this Republican person is saying by electing Donald Trump, they've corrected themselves. I mean, you saw how Kamala Harris, the vice president, campaigned. She did everything right, almost everything right. She worked so hard, and the momentum seemed to have been on her side. But it was all deceit. And people went there. Donald Trump not only win the election, he got a mandate. It was sweeping. It was overwhelming. And so what does that tell you? We should, like all of you have said, brace ourselves for some of these egregious and horrific policy positions that they will place in front of people and will implement. It will impact all of us, immigrants and minorities, and groups they don't like, groups they don't see as legitimate Americans or have any business to be in this country. Beyond that, even foreign policy, national security, international relations, international affairs, and that's where we will come to talk about relations. That will impact global politics and geopolitics beyond imagination. Because now he's not coming back. He's not running for re-election. The Supreme Court has sort of signaled that he has some kind of immunity as the president. He has some kind of additional immunity and protection as the president, that you can prosecute him for certain things. And so you can the rest of it is, I don't know. It's actually scary to imagine what will happen, but hopefully institutions and the systems in this country will fight back. Lawsuits upon lawsuits will slow some of the aggressive policies.
And talking about lawsuit, it was only today that it was brought to my attention that in 2018 that the Liberians, a group, actually sued President Trump, because he was trying to reverse these things. And probably it was that lawsuit that got him scared to back off.
Yeah.
Carl.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Cole, let me go to you on your reaction to the comeback of President Donald J. Trump, President-elect.
I'm not surprised. And I am very surprised at the number of Hispanics that flipped. So I was telling you earlier that I did this statistical analysis. I looked at the stats from Hillary versus Trump and Kamala versus Trump. I wanted to see if this was a race issue or a gender issue and look at the different demographics. So you'd be surprised to know that slightly more people who classify themselves as white, non-Hispanic in America voted for Kamala than they did for Hillary against Trump. Slightly more. Very shocking. And African Americans are only 14.5% of the population. But the largest demographic that voted for for Kamala was African American women. Same thing for Hillary. And African American men, slightly fewer of them voted for Kamala than they did. More Black American men, or people who classify themselves as Black or African American, voted for Hillary Clinton than they did for Kamala. But it was still just a small margin. People need to remember that African Americans, people who consider themselves Black, who are able to vote, are fewer than 15% of the population, actually close to about 14%, closer to 14% and 15% of the population. They're looking at Kamala Harris as a candidate. I don't see Kamala Harris as a Black female candidate. I don't have prejudice against Black people because I'm Black myself. So that's not going to affect me. I don't have prejudice against women because I'm a woman myself. So, and I know women are intelligent and capable of leading and all of these things. It was, the Black women just voted her for because she's Black. No, the Black women did not refuse to vote for her because she's Black and female. That's really what it is. It's not that they went after, because look at the things that Trump is doing. Kamala did nothing wrong. People in this country want to maintain a certain status quo. Their credit card debt is through the roof. They're unhappy. They're all on meds, running around here, trying to be happy. And the only thing they can cling to, I'm white. God Almighty, I'm a white man, and that's the only thing I've got in this world. And that is something that not only existing Americans, it's not all of them, right? Because about 40% of white Americans did support Kamala. Same amount, slightly less actually supported Hillary. But what happened was the new Americans, the immigrants who are Hispanic and white, are the ones who tilted this in Trump's favor. It was the Hispanic vote. If you look at the number and look at the statistics, nothing else affected this election more than Hispanic voters who consider themselves white. And that's a wake-up call, and that is also not based on issues, because the issues that Kamala was representing is actually in favor of the Hispanic Latino community. So this was probably more about gender and race for them than anything else. They overwhelmingly supported Biden. They overwhelmingly supported Hillary. They did not support Kamala. And so that's something maybe she failed to campaign in their area, failed to gain their trust. I think we're spending a lot of time being angry, saying, Black men didn't vote for Kamala. Yes, they did. I mean, not as many as they voted for Hillary, but yes, they did. The white people didn't vote. Yes, they did. Slightly more white people voted for Kamala than they did for Hillary. And a lot more voted for Biden, of course, right? But if you compare the two women, Kamala did a little bit better among white voters than Hillary did. So I just wanted to throw that out there and kind of talk about the actual numbers and the statistics. I don't have the board in front of me, but I did spend some time looking at all the exit polls, the data, and I'm like, wow, I was surprised. That's pretty much it. I mean, Trump is going to continue, like you and I were having the discussion earlier about his racist off the board. He wanted to end, the Liberian sanctions, not sanctions, but safe haven for Liberians and other immigrants. And Liberian people had to get together and sue for their right to be here before he could back down. Liberians think this guy likes him. He's called African, countries, what whole country. He's a horrible excuse for a human being. He sat there and simulated a phallic simulation with a microphone in front of thousands of people, and they still elected him. He whispered the B word to the sitting vice president, and people still voted for him because it's more important that they preserve that pretense of privilege. Not pretense, it's a real thing, right? But, we're going to get rid of diversity and inclusion, and white men are going to get undue privilege again. So our kids are not going to have to compete. This is real thinking of a lot of people in this country. And Hispanic voters who think that they're white and think that they're going to be able to benefit from some kind of privilege if they team up with the
brown people. They call them brown.
No, there are white people who are Hispanic. I mean, Spain is in Europe, and the descendants of the Spaniards are all over Latin America, and so they call it Latin America for a reason. Everybody is not an indigenous person in Mexico. You've got white people in Argentina and Mexico, everywhere. Descendants of Spain, the same way you have, white British people living in Australia. So we have to remember, not everybody that speaks Spanish is a person of color. That's why they have that category. Are you white and Hispanic, or not? That's why they have that, because the term Hispanic is not a racial thing, it's a cultural thing. It's about origin and language. It's more linguistic and cultural than racial. But yeah, the white Hispanic population has increased the number of white people in America. And that is what shifted the demographic for against Kamala.
Thank you.
But again, Black people, like I said, we're only about 14% of the population. And then we're also the least turn out to vote all the time too. So
right. And this thing on religion, because I know my own pastors from Liberia, but let's talk about the US-Liberia relationship, because I know some Liberians who are, for Trump, right? And even back in Liberia. But let's talk about the US-Liberia relationship.
The president of Liberia for what is his name? Trump.
This is laughable, because if you look at it, like Ms. Fambula said, a lot of immigrants are taking this as a joke about what this man has stated outright what he wants to do. He's targeting a weak group, a group that he sees as weak, as inferior. Have such policies that he wants to implement. You should be alarmed. You should do your research, as opposed to listening to these news channels that are, quite frankly, charged to support one side, either the left or the right. Immigrants that decide to go ahead and listen to these news channels and then pretty much spew out garbage. Trump had a great economy. The economy that Obama was the one that did most of the work to improve the economy. So you come back and you say Trump had a great economy. He cares about the people. This is a man who has stated outright that he does not care about anybody but himself. But immigrants continue to take it as a joke. Liberians, all of the people that I've had conversations within this community, it's been so frustrating to hear some of them say certain things when they know very well, if you did your research, you would uncover some of the truths. But you rather stay within your own ignorance and support an individual who has not a care in the world about what you would do, how you would get your next opportunity to advance. Will your children benefit from anything, any policies going forward when it comes to seeking out higher education? If you're talking about defunding the Department of Education and things that, quite frankly, have helped people of color advance within this country.
Maybe it's time for the Democratic Party, Dr. Drew, to look at more on issues instead of these demographics, because every time in the Democratic Party they talk about Blacks, Hispanic, LGBT community, but when when it comes to the wire, these demographics maybe letting them down, right? So should they talk about Trump or talking about crimes, borders, and all these issues? Don't you think that had a role to play?
Yeah, but they have. I think they do talk about crime. They talk about Democrats talk about all these issues, but Democrats put emphasis on, I would say, changing things, values that don't work anymore, social issues, paying attention to people, that kind of stuff. They have this social approach to issues. And the Republicans are, we need to make the money.
Mhm.
Money is money mentality. So they have that difference. And I don't think Democrats should change. If you remember now, Democrats won the popular vote for every time since 2000. But it's just the, what do you call it, the electoral college that cheat them. So the bigger, if you think about it, in democracy, the largest American society believes more in a Democrat than in the Republicans. But the Republicans managed to win the electoral college every time since
That's true.
2000.
That's true.
Yeah, so
Thank you,
therefore,
Senator.
I don't think they should change. I think they should focus on what they're doing, probably strategize more at the local level, where Republicans change laws and everything. I think Democrats run for the big presidency, the good president, but they don't pay too much attention to little thing machinery at the state, at the local level. And that's how Republicans have been able to change laws, electoral laws, redistricting, all of this in court system, because they take all these little positions that people leave behind.
Mr. Salif, so let's talk about the US-Liberia relations. What do you think going to change under President Trump?
Mhm. Well, the question is, what do we have in place right now?
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
yeah. What do we have in place that really benefits Liberia as it should benefit Liberia when we talk about our orders and what was the term we use? Our orders partner and friend,
Yeah,
like your stepchild to America, all of that. That's what needs to change because to be honest, American foreign policy writ large really remains the same. There'll be slight tweaking based on party leaning and who's president. But America's foreign policy is anchored on the national strategic interest. As well as national security, is economics, is those geopolitics, those major issues that benefit America. And that's really what their foreign policy, and then power to project democracy, the American dollar, power out there in the world. And so, if you look at it from that perspective, what does America stand to gain with its foreign policy in Liberia, and therefore, what difference electing Mr. Trump makes in this relationship? America has always gained a lot from Liberia, I would argue, but I don't think on the opposite side that we've gained as much or even anywhere close to what uh, we ought to be gaining from the U.S. So Liberia itself should we should redefine our own foreign policy objectives and try to position ourselves in such a way that we make ourselves competitive, and we don't just take it for granted now to say, our only major partner is the United States, right? And so that is a premise I was set with President Trump. We all know the whatever uh, country comments that he made, and these things you say them is this it speaks volume. It speaks the person's mind, their mindset, the attitude about certain people, certain countries, certain regions, right? This is the person who has said in the past, serious to which country that's headed or led by a black person that's prosperous or successful. I may be paraphrasing it, but to the effect that black presidents or black people are not effective. They don't run their countries well. You say all kinds of things about people that look like Liberians. And so I don't know. I don't have
The Liberians would be there agreeing and clapping.
yeah, so Dennis, I don't know. I'm not too optimistic. I don't see big changes happening positively. I see anything marginal. There may even be some policy that will affect Liberia negatively. That's what I'm fearing. I don't think that we'll have a drastic all of a sudden foreign relation change towards Liberia. All these things, Mr. Trump is now awakening America's from the slumber to recognize that this is the country that you've held this long-standing relationship with, and they've done all these things for you, and now America ought to stand for them and be there for them and help them grow and develop. Liberians themselves will have to do it. We have to make ourselves competitive for America to compete for our attention, for our relationship, so that we can restructure and benefit from this. Because every country foreign policy, again, is anchored on a domestic strategic objective. Once we know that, then we say, who will help us to accomplish X, Y, Z? We look for those people. Of course, United States, you cannot, you can't leave. We can't say we'll abandon America. All these other countries, China and all of that, they're all the biggest trading partners is with America mostly. And so we, as a small country, we can't say, all right, we'll abandon that and go to China and go to Russia and other countries that are loggerhead with the United States. Liberians love America. That's why we're here. But I'm saying we just have to strategically reposition ourselves so that we can make a better case for ourselves to the United States.
Cool.
Yes,
What
sir.
do you have and what's going to change going forward?
So America is still going to have its brain drain policy in place. America is still going to suck all of the talent out of the rest of the world and bring them here to make America great. They're going to do it undercover because they don't want the guys that are sitting in Alabama, drinking moonshine and scratching their stomachs and stuff to get angry. But the fact of the matter is most of the high paying jobs are going to people who were born in places like India and Nigeria and these kinds of places. Most of our technical people, right? I live in Georgia, I live in the South. You go to any medical center or hospital, Nigerian born educated doctors, Indian born educated dentists, so they're still going to do this brain drain immigration policy where they want to get the best and the brightest from everywhere. These countries that we've slandered, that the Republicans have slandered for the last few months, they're going to continue to come in because they're needed here. That's what makes America great. So they talk against immigration. They always focus on the people who are running across the border because those people are illiterate, because those people are desperate. They don't realize that the people who are really taking their jobs are these people that are better educated and better skilled than the average person here. They have to actually farm these people, bring them, give them citizenship. The country keeps functioning. The people who are sneaking over the border are also necessary. They're not going to stop that either because that's going to affect industries and affect agriculture in this country. So it's all smoke and mirrors, but what they are going to do is they're going to make some blatant examples out of these people that kind of fall in the middle, my prediction, right? They're going to take, the people who are on temporary, there's still people here temporarily, people seeking asylum, they're going to have to go because he's going to have to make a couple of these public displays. Funding to projects, USAID projects, they're going to funnel a lot of that funding towards other things. Ukraine needs America's support. Trump has a huge lobby among those people. He's all about white power, and the advancement of people that look like him. And so resources that have been going to support projects in countries that he considers to be whole countries are going to be cut back. It happened the last time he was president, His disrespect for people of color led him, Liberian people sued him. Liberians and other people that were on TPS had to sue Donald Trump's administration for him to, backtrack and say, okay, fine, you guys can stay. And we started clapping for that. I remember. I was like, what is this? But we have a short memory. We're also our population is deeply religious and deeply believe in things that are baseless. People think Trump is religious. Trump doesn't believe in God. I seriously doubt that he does. And if you think that a God-fearing person conducts himself that way, then I don't know, what kind of God you think created this world. But yeah, that guy. I grew up here. I spent my whole life in this country. I've known of Donald Trump. He has never been a religious person. He's always been vile and disrespectful, entertainer, a disgusting, arrogant businessman. He has not aged out of it. He's just who he's always been, and people love it. The people who they think that he's supporting them, they love it. We over here worrying about gay people. Trump in the 80s, when I was a little kid, Trump was running around partying with gay people. He's probably bisexual. Y'all don't even know this man. Oh, you know that God chosen person. I'm like, really? Just go back and look at this guy's life, and nothing has changed. He married a call girl. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed.
Mr. Gibson.
Yes. When it comes to US-Liberia relations, I want to pull some facts from Brookings Institute, a reputable source when it comes to all things foreign and domestic policies. Specifically, when it came to the Trump presidency, there was a huge reduction in foreign aid. He emphasized America first in everything when it came to dealing with foreign nations. He scaled back foreign aid to a lot of African countries that was not in alignment with the America first doctrine that he practiced. You saw it impacted healthcare, the aid that was that needed healthcare development programs, support for humanitarian efforts, leading to criticisms that some of these things that he was doing was not supporting countries that had longstanding relationships with America and that has always needed support. Second, there was a whole lot of immigration issues, as Ms. Fambula stated. In 2020, the administration added 6 countries to their travel ban list. You had Nigeria being one, Sudan and Tanzania. The list goes on. So he wasn't somebody that was super invested in helping in any way when it came to the continent of Africa. This was a person that practiced isolationism at its finest. If America was not too advanced and America's interest was not protected, or America didn't have any interest in said country, he had no reason to get involved. Aid was affected, and of course, Liberia has depended heavily on aid from the United States. So what does that tell you?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Tough Talking Thursday. If you want to be a part of it, call the number on the screen, 605-313-6004. The code is 7913-403#. That takes us to our Tabata session.
I didn't talk about this show.
Oh, you didn't? Sorry.
What?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Dubin. You are the diploma here.
Yeah, I had something lined up actually. Back in 2011 or something, President Sirleaf and Hillary Clinton got together, and then they had this idea, Liberia-US dialogue. And I remember we talked to Dr. Don about it, and he said, "Oh yeah, we had." Tubman started something like that back in the 50s, but it didn't go far. So Hillary and Ellen started it, and the first meeting focusing on governance, education, economy, culture was held in DC. It was chaired by Ellen herself and Hillary. The second meeting took place in Liberia. Hillary couldn't go, the Deputy Secretary of State went. That was the good. Guess what happened the third meeting? Liberian people brought the list of what they need. They had no ideas. All they brought was list of, we need this, we need this, we need that. So at the end, by the time Ellen left left government, the meeting was Liberians going to Americans and beg for, we need more classroom, we need paint here, we need this thing. So it turned it, rather than a big political setting, Liberians turned it into a begging setting. That we lower ourselves instead of saying, okay, we are here as equal to equal, as partners in the political sphere. This is what we can do together. No, Liberians scaled themselves lower and became beggars. So finally, the meeting happened between embassy staff and Liberian ministers. So that's we want to bring back to that point of Ahmed was talking about. We have to make ourselves important. We have to say, this is what we need from America, and this is how we get it. If you don't do that, you think that America is thinking about you. No. This country is not about thinking about nobody if they don't need you. So Liberian people have this mentality, traditional friends. You are traditional friends with the biggest, the strongest economy in the world for 200 years, and you are still one of the poorest countries in the world. Don't you have to ask yourself the question, what is wrong with me? If Ahmed is the richest person in the world, I'm his best friend, and I go out to find food in the garbage.
Yeah, that's what I forgot. Traditional friend. Our
Yeah,
oldest
traditional friends. We not. America take Liberia as a baby. You know, boom, boom. We need this. Do that. Support out of the U.S. When last time you seen an American embassy? I was at a 26th celebration this year. Our president went to the U.S. embassy in Monrovia, made a speech, blah 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 blah. Nobody from the State Department showed up at the Liberian embassy. It never happens. You call that friendship? No. I hope that, regarding Donald Trump, I just hope that the new ambassador will be able to present his letter of credence and then move on. Nothing will happen. Let's hope that our people who are on the TPS are safe, because there's this center in New York. We are going to suppress. They're going to get rid of education. They get rid of TPS and a whole lot of things. So this man is problem for Liberia and Africa. For Africa, I don't, he doesn't care. Anybody who is black, who's not looking blue, if you look, all the women around him look like the same person. They all look the same.
Dr. Duke.
No, but I do film. I look at people. I see the future. The press secretary, the this and that, the lawyer, they all look alike.
Creepy. He's a sick narcissist. It's scary.
Exactly. We look at things detailed, like So this man, president, we just pray and then say, okay, leave our country alone. Don't even talk about us. Forget us. We'll do our own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let him forget us. Of course, diplomacy. I mean, you talk about what is going to happen with Ukraine. Ukraine is not sleeping now. What's going to happen with the Palestine? Let's pray. I'm done.
Before you pray, then you have to give a Bible verse about 2 Corinthians.
Yeah, Matabata is this fight about Matabata is the fight in the house, the gangster brawl. Somebody say, it's just stupid. I mean, whatever happened, Fonati Kofa is on his way out, but it doesn't take care of the business of Liberian people. So that's a real Tabata. This law, coding laws and laws, it's not a law, it's a political issue. Resolve it politically and move on. If you don't trust Fonati Kofa, he can be speaker 43 against 30. Let him go. Say, hey, you know what? I got my money, save you money. And Snow is better off today than he was speaker, right? Anyway, that's my Tabata.
Somebody say, he bribed to get in. Now he's being bribed out and he's crying.
Oh yeah, he bribed to get in. That's what I say. Yeah. Well, it's the house of bribery.
Mr. Salif, your Tabata.
Yes, it's similar thing. What's the room 1026, hotel room 1026 thing? And then somebody brought the hotel room at the Farmington Hotel. He said that's where Speaker Kofa will convene, these guys basically to distribute money. That was the allegation. So why are you only referencing one hotel room at Boulevard Palace Hotel in Cinco then, and not mention the other one? That just tells you that really the system we have and the mindset of our politicians is a sour state of affairs. It has to change really in order to move the country forward. You can be an ethical person and distribute money to people to make your way to office. And the same thing is happening. Other people distributing money to fight you. When does that end? When do people really care about Liberia itself? Look at the country, say, look, this is the only place we really have and own, and let's make it better for all of us. It's a hard question, but and it's not a Tabata, but the way the politicians we have there now are acting, the whole thing is a theater, it's a complete fiasco.
Call, what's your Tabata of the week?
My Tabata of the week is a certain somebody who's a grown man taking money to go and protest, and trying to rally young people in the streets with him with his gray beard. to go protest like one hooligan and having hardly anybody show up. And then running away on one pimping, dry face. Anyway.
Who did that? Who
I
did
call
that?
it nobody name yet. I gotta make anybody.
Oh, VP.
Yeah. That was so funny. And I'm actually, yeah, that's my Tabitha. When you will grow up, your friend them be planning for their retirement, you still allowing yourself to be used as a political mercenary, calling yourself an activist. We gotta stop this thing. We need to evolve. But I'm very proud of our young people. They ate the money and stayed home. I'm very proud of them.
They're smart. They know what
things are hard. Don't be taking people money and going in the street and expose yourself to all kind of, sometimes even violence. So give me half the money up front. After I protest, you give me the other half. Take the half and go sit down home and cook your food. Watch everything unfold on TV and listen to it on the radio. But yeah, that was my Tabata. That man is whole display of lack of integrity.
Dennis, what do you Tabata? Are we off?
Mr. Gibson, what's your Tabata?
Oh, we didn't get everybody yet.
Yeah, I would say the house debacle that's happening for sure. That would be mine.
Find different Tabata.
What's your Tabata? Let's come back to him. One or yours first.
And no callers, no one on the phone.
Yeah, we have one caller. He dropped out, so I'm still waiting. My Tabata is retire suffering.
Yeah,
I mean this thing about like, bro, that you did a job, just like the Chinese show. You killed my parent 200 years ago. You did a job 20 years ago, 6 years ago, and you really think that's the only job you can do now. And the thing about it is, if that person leaves the job, you don't even hear them anything close to that job. Like I mean, look at our man retire suffering. You were, diploma, and since then, at least if you're around the Foreign Service Institute said teaching or something, but since then you've been all over the place except that. Now the stage is set and you are back there like, okay, take me. That's the only thing I know.
Yeah, it's problematic, right? Sitting there and not even giving back. Not one class, not one book has been published.
Nothing.
No legacy.
No symposium, no even panel discussion to say, okay, let's talk about this. I mean, it's like you leave, that's it, until you get paid again.
Yeah.
The expectations are so low.
But people have lived at survival level for 30 years. And you have kids who have grown always thinking about the next meal their whole life. You think they have time to sit and strategize about nation building?
Yes, others have done it.
Yeah. They were taught critical thinking and other things.
Others have done it under worse circumstances. I'm a student of history.
Yeah, I know that.
To us, it's not unique. What's happening to us is not unique.
What happened to us is that we miss a lot. It's culture. Culture is important. Education is. We don't. For 30 years, people have been running around. For 30 years, they haven't been able to stand and say, this is where the country is going. I mean, there's a difference between poverty and instability, mental instability, that is created by social conditions. There's poverty. Yeah, you can have poverty. You can be poor, you sleep,
I have a video I want you guys to look at a little bit. So okay. I get your comment. I don't know if you watch it.
My people who want they wanted the people. I want them to be in the my people. Oh, my people. The boy want me on shit. Let the candle wet today. I don't have mercy. So those I get no advice. No, I go any minister, I can go there to advise. Hey, you give me money, I will not refuse it. But I'm not going there for money, baby. I'm going there to advise. I said, they papa here. That papa, but I bring. The papa thinking on.
That was the Boakai, the baby Oma.
Baby Oma, yeah.
She said you're making them shame when you pass someone, they can be laughing, so the people should go to work. But join me tomorrow on Sunday. I have a show with the going back the return of the diaspora, annual return of diaspora. There are some Liberians. They have a whole month of festivities going back as Diaspora Liberia, the government. And so here's the ad.
Mama Liberia. This December, the Diaspora Office at the Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs invite you to get ready for an unforgettable homecoming experience as Liberia welcomes her diaspora home again. Join us for the first ever Liberia Diaspora Annual Return, where heritage meets celebration. From cultural festivals to investment summits, from heritage awards to kids' Christmas parties, from culinary delights to breathtaking tours and beaches. Come rediscover the beauty of Liberia. Explore Liberia's rich history and culture with guided tours of the historical Providence Island, the city of Edina, the National Museum, just to name a few. Embark on a thrilling adventure through the stunning landscapes of Robertsport, Lake Piso, Patui Waterfall, Mount Nimba, and so many more. Join the excitement at our Diaspora Heritage Awards, the One Liberia March, and the Peace and Reconciliation Dialogue, where unity and culture come alive. And don't miss our incredible investment summit, our exclusive garden party, or the Christmas cantata, events that will leave you with memories to last a lifetime. This is more than a trip, it's a welcome home. President Boakai invites you to visit Liberia this December for the 2024 Liberia Diaspora Annual Return. Your heritage, your history, your culture. See you in Liberia.
I know
All
this
right.
may sound sexy. This may
I'll
sound
be hosting the
sexy.
group this Sunday at 3 p.m. You don't want to miss it.
You know what people say about December is in Monrovia? Leave a woman alone.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, no, seriously. I mean, I mean, that's what I say. I may sound, sexist by say repeating a joke, but there's, oh, you Decemberists, you coming, stay away from our people.
I mean, I don't know, whatever. I mean,
Whatever.
I think listen.
It's a joke between men.
If I take care of the women, they will not be looking for tourists to take care of them.
No.
They want to go a different place now. So let me get because there's a story online. Yeah, there's one caller, it keeps calling and falling off. So let's go around the room for your closing. I really appreciate your time this Thursday. Let's get your closing. Let me go counterclockwise. Mr. Gibson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Jha, for the opportunity once more. Always great to be a part of such great conversation. I'm looking forward to the next Tough Talking Thursday, particularly these topics that we cover when it comes to Boakai's new appointment and the House Speaker impasse. First, with the appointments, I hope that the business of folks paying or bribing individuals to get on a short list for some of these positions, hopefully that would change. Because quite frankly, Liberia cannot continue to put folks who are not prepared on the world stage to represent us. It makes us look like a laughing stock to other nations who are prepared. So hopefully that will change whenever that will occur. Hopefully it will occur within my lifetime. When it comes to the House Speaker impasse, hopefully the Speaker will either resign or these individuals will come together and try to figure out a way forward, but something needs to take place. Liberians are not focused on things that will not advance their own interests. They're not focused on what a lawmaker is trying to get a brown envelope or trying to get put on a committee as a chair. It's time that they get back to doing the work of the people when it comes to this budget being presented to them and other things that need to be discussed within the committee room. It's time to put the Liberian people first for once. Thank you all so much for the opportunity. I look forward to the next discussion.
Thank you. Let me mention here, Jimmy has his tabata. My tabata is how bribery is so prevalent in the legislature and there is no attempt addressing this issue. Liberian interests are on the back burner. Dr. Dugley, your closing, sir.
Thank you, Dennis, and thank you, Ahmed, Cole, and Mr. Gibson for all the work you have done to give us this information and all of this conversation. I would say, I hope that the ambassadors have a roadmap that our foreign policy is going in a certain direction according to the needs of the country today and what is prevailing in the international scene, on the international scene. Regarding the House, I think the speaker will go anyway. I think that's, there's no other way. After you lose, when 43 out of 70 decide to sign against you, you're gone. It's a matter of days. So how soon they'll do it? I think George Weah should just come and tell the man, you know what, we have confidence in you. Now we want somebody else. Can you just step aside and then let the show continue with someone else? I think that's the only solution. Regarding what is the third topic, the US-Liberia, Trump, just leave us alone. Don't touch anything. Would be good for the next 4 years. Okay, just leave us alone.
Thank you. Cole, you're closing.
I'm optimistic. I think that there's going to be some changes, some positive changes. I think that with our leadership academy that we're running in Liberia, I think that those young people are going to grow and position themselves so they can advance the cause of our country. I am only going to say to Liberian people, it's very important that we reach into ourselves and realize that we are the only ones that are going to take Liberia where it needs to go. We either sit back, nobody's coming to save us but us, right? So we either sit back and do nothing, or we do something and be proactive. We're not the only people in the world that have been through this. And in fact, right in our own history, we've been triumphant over many, many obstacles, greater than even the slump we're going through. I just want to tell everyone it's important, especially now with the way things are going in the world. President Sirleaf also addressed this in her birthday speech. We have to be the ones that advance our own agenda, our own cause. It is not going to be, this thing that diaspora Liberians versus Liberians on the ground. This is not about bickering and fighting. We need all hands on deck to put our support behind President Boakai, behind those who are trying to advance our country. Be helpful, be useful, be constructive, even in your criticism. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Let me also say that there's a link of when we say Liberia sue President Trump, Liberian immigrants sue President Trump. There was a march in 2019. I put the link in there so that you can see. Mr. Sirleaf, you got a last.
Thank you, Dennis. Yeah, thank you, everybody. I'm also optimistic. Looking at, discussions that are happening around reform, even if they look like now real reform, these are things that never really used to happen. Right now, they're talking about auditing the legislature, the Senate, and the lower house, and those things they didn't even care to audit themselves or to even agree to create some kind of framework. And so now we're in a storming stage, as they say, right? The people fight about it back and forth, but it will become a normal thing that, okay, we hold you accountable somewhat. And that will, the social media age and different types of new media and the way everything is now going to advance technology, I think it will help if we pay attention to bring about reform to a certain degree. While it looks really difficult with the leaders that are there and just really self-aggrandizing political grandstanding a lot of times, I believe strongly that eventually things will begin to look better, and to a point where we can continue the way we're doing, because everybody else is around the world is moving forward. We'll learn and tag along with some of these things. So in that respect, I'm optimistic, but it would take concerted efforts. It would take some degree of seriousness and discussion and really planning to be able to move in a better direction. And as far as the foreign policy discussion we were having, I think similarly, we'll have to really sit down and have a conversation about our leaders who are leading our foreign affairs now. I hope they're thinking in that direction to really look at what's happening in the world and say, where's Liberia standing in the world? Where's our place in the world? Where do we want to be? What contribution can we make? Like in any relationship, you don't show up asking, what can you do for me? Show up if you want a trusting relationship. You try to, to suggest something, make yourself useful. Say, I'm here to contribute, to be an equal partner. Here's how I can contribute. Let's have a conversation. I think that's the only way people will stop and look at Liberia seriously.
And before you end your thoughts, just 30 seconds on the Liberia Governance and Justice Initiative.
Yeah, we've launched the Liberia Governance and Justice Initiative, LGJI. We have a website. We have a team in Liberia. We have an office over there. It's a new organization. We're organizing. We're still launching. We don't have significant funding yet to do the work, but it's serious people behind it. We're looking. Most of what we're doing now, just really positioning ourselves to raise funds so that we can begin to strategize and implement some of these programs that we've put out there. That we're having conversations, meeting with different organizations in Liberia and internationally, and what we want to do is to engage really in a substantive way, not to be an opposition to government necessarily, be a partner to the government, be a partner to private sector organizations, to foundations, to individuals who want to invest in Liberia, promote positive image of the country, and show people that Liberia is a place that you can do business, a destination, and in Liberia itself, to engage in conversations around what governance looks like, what governance could look like under our country's laws, and things like that. With the fellowship programs that we have, to have fellows funded who can really engage with public institutions, other private sector institutions to advance positive, good governance in Liberia and rule of law. That's what LGJI is about.
Do we have time for advertisement? Do we do free advertisement here?
Well, I think we have privileges as panelists when we're here. We mention the work we're doing, and that's so. In that respect, there can be some quid pro quo there, but I will talk to FOL to see what the terms and around advertising.
No, you and I will raise a lot of money, and then we go work.
Don't listen to him.
We go to Liberia and work for 5 years. You and I, we go.
Yeah, we go and work. Let's do that. I'm all for it.
Let's raise money and go work in Liberia for 4 years.
Thank you. And check me out in
Oh no, you got a job in Sino, right? Yeah. Don't worry.
Last position is the list is still coming around. I think it's still
you got it. We're there for next 4 years. We in Liberia.
Thank you, everyone, for the time. I want to appreciate your time so much. I want to thank our viewers, even those who watch later. Always focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberian. Till then, we're going to close with a song that says, "We are all Liberians." Have a good night and God bless you.
Good night.
We are Liberians.